Right, so I'm trying to figure out exactly what is causing the 5850 flickering problem with dual screens. And I'm just trying at the moment to pinpoint exactly the problem. And so at the moment I am figuring out if the memory clock and only the memory clock is to blame for this. So what I have here is a very simple setup of two monitors, one of which has a YouTube video on it. This is important because we're looking at the UVD clock, which we are currently in. This UVD clock is number 4 here, with 400 core clock and 900 memory clock. We can see this over here in Afterburner. Now, I guess not the consensus, but the idea so far is that the memory clock is causing this issue. And I know at the very least that a change in memory clock is causing this issue. And I can show you that by simply changing from UVD to something else. So if I close my YouTube video over here, and I look at this screen while doing that, you will see that there will be a small flickering over there. And we can see that this was caused by changing from 900 to 1000 memory clock. Now, this 1000 over here is the 5th clock on this side, which is the low for 2D. And so we're comparing the 5th clock here and the 4th. And the voltage is the same, the core clock is the same. Basically, the only difference is at 100 megahertz in the RAM clock. Now, the question is this the only problem? Because by this logic, we would say, well, if we just set everything at 1000, you know, the memory clock is never going to change and the problem will be fixed. So let's go ahead and try this out right now. So if we set everything at 1000 over here, and we're just in fact going to save this BIOS somewhere on the desktop. Let's just call this 1000. And we are going to flash this. It's flashing. And we're done. Let's try to reboot. And again, nothing else than the memory clock has been changed. The voltages are the same and the core clocks are the same. They're all stock. So right now we should see no flicker even if we change the mode. So right now we're just starting Windows. So right now, if we go back to RBE, let's just put this here, and I'm going to open RBE over here, and we're going to acquire our BIOS. And if we go to the clocks, we will see that right now everything is at 1000. So we're just going to open Afterburner to make sure of that. And I'm also going to set up my YouTube video over here. I'm just picking something at random here. And again, as usual, Afterburner is taking 1000 years to boot. And I can already tell that something did change, because After starting the video, there was no flicker. So right now we are at 1000 and we are in UVD. So let's just close this video and see if anything happens. Nothing did happen. And we can see that we are safely at our same 1000 memory clock. Now, the question is, can we overclock this? Because my setup before was that I had an overclock on my card that did not affect anything else than the full 3D clock. And basically, for some reason, even that would not work. So, of course, this means that what is the problem here is the fact of changing the memory clock from one value to the other and not, say, having a memory clock over X number. So what I had before over here is 1150, like so. So if we save this BIOS here and we call this overclock, we'll see. And we're going to flash this. And right now, of course, we can check, we can do whatever, scroll, move windows, all of which would cause flickering, and none of it is happening. And we can also see that the core clock is changing, and there's no flickering whatsoever. So the only thing I'm doing here is I'm changing the memory clock for the 3D setting. And I'm going to flash this. And again, we're going to reboot. And we're going to see if we get any flickering at all. If we do, we'll know that the changing of the clock is actually the cause of this issue. And, well, it's kind of annoying because, of course, you would not want your clock to always be the same. You want it to be dynamic. Now, the thing, though, is that I could technically set the clock for it to be always overclocked, and basically the only thing that it would cause is perhaps a bit of heat. And I'm not exactly close in terms of heat. I can basically put whatever heat I can from my graphics card and I'm going to be quite fine. But it's just a matter of principle. I just do not like the fact to have a permanently overclocked memory clock. That just seems a bit stupid. So I'm just going to open RB again, and I'm going to do basically the same pattern, see if we can get some sort of flickering with this this setup going on here. There's Afterburner. And we can see right now we are at 400, 1000, which is now the default low 2D clock. And we can see that we have flickering because we went from 1000 to 1150. And this is going to cause flickering. Do note, of course, that I did not start a video. It's just it went to the 3D clock. And now I can basically move stuff around. I could also open an application that would cause 3D to come on, and it would flicker. And of course, there we see again any flickering will be caused by this memory changing. So again, basically, this is the proof that this flickering is caused by the changing in memory speed. And of course, as we've established, it can go both ways. It's not if you're increasing memory speed or if you're lowering the memory speed. Any change at all whatsoever will cause the trouble. I could check to see if there's a threshold I could set, the clock to 1001 and see if, even 1 megahertz would change something. But that's kind of pointless, so I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do, however, now is I'm going to try to figure out if it's viable to, fix this problem by basically overclocking everything. I've already said that technically it's viable to me, and that I don't like it, but maybe we can just see if it's going to fix the problem. And this would, of course, be basically the proof of concept here. And I'm no expert here, but I guess that some memory clock is going to cause more heat. I'm not exactly sure what's the proportion memory clock to core clock in terms of heat buildup. But I guess that, my guess would be that core clock produces more heat, but I'm not sure of that. So I'm just not going to say anything stupid here. So let's just flash this thing in again. And we'll see if we can basically be at 1150 and live with that. My guess is that yes, we can, but we're going to see. And there you have it. It's not viable because it simply doesn't work. The card won't take it. Now, luckily for me, I have somewhere, in fact not somewhere, but I have right over there. I'm just going to need to reboot now. But I have in the computer a USB key that will allow me to basically change again the BIOS to the default settings and live with that. But maybe there would be some kind of threshold somewhere that would allow me to have an overclocked card with a constant memory clock, but something tells me that it would not be a lot, because something tells me that I cannot have such a high memory clock for everything, and that everything will take it, and that the computer will simply be able to boot. Now, of course, 1150 is quite a gap from 1000, so perhaps I could live with, say, 1050 or 1100, but at that point, what's the big deal? What's the point of overclocking at that point? So I'm just going to